John Miller never won anything in his life. He was an ordinary man living in a small apartment above a noisy street. Every morning he went to the factory, punched the clock, and returned home to the sound of broken air conditioners and traffic horns. His world was small, gray, and predictable. One night, while scrolling through cheap ads on his cracked phone, he saw something strange. A flashing banner said, "Win a mystery prize from the stars, only one." John chuckled. From the stars? What a joke. Still, something about that ad felt different. Its letters shimmered like they were made of real light, not pixels. He shrugged, clicked it, and paid $1 with the last bit of money in his digital wallet. Then he forgot about it and went to sleep. The next morning began like every other until the ground shook. A deep rumbling sound rolled across the sky. John ran to his window. Clouds twisted like smoke, glowing blue from within. Then something dropped fast, too fast, and crashed into the empty lot beside his building. Dust flew everywhere. A bright metallic pod, smooth as silver glass, sat steaming in the middle of the lot. People gathered. Some filmed on their phones. Others shouted, "It's a meteor!" John pushed through the crowd. The pod hissed, releasing a long breath of white mist. Then the front split open with a slow metallic groan. Inside stood a girl. She wasn't human. Her skin glowed faint blue, her eyes like polished crystal, and her silver white hair fell over a dark collar around her neck. She looked terrified. When she stepped out, she held a small device that projected a hologram. "Congratulations, John Miller. Your delivery has arrived." John froze. The crowd gasped. Someone whispered, "Is this a prank?" But the girl looked right at him and said in a trembling voice, "Please." "Are you John Miller?" He nodded slowly. She dropped to her knees. "Assignment received. I am your service unit, Lyra. Please issue command." Everyone screamed. Phones dropped. Some ran. Others recorded. John's neighbor shouted, "What kind of sick game is this?" The police sirens wailed nearby. John's heart raced. "Wait, no. I don't know what this is. I just clicked an ad." Lyra flinched at the sound of the sirens. "Please, and don't send me back. They will kill me." Her voice cracked like she had been hiding fear for years. The officers arrived and pointed their lights at John. "Sir, step away from the alien." But before they could move closer, the pod's walls flashed again and vanished into thin air, leaving only a circle of burned ground. The girl stumbled forward, confused and weak. John raised his hands. "I swear I don't know what's happening." But when the police looked again, Lyra and the pod were gone. Only John stood there, smoke curling around his feet. That night, alone in his apartment, John couldn't stop pacing. His phone replayed the news. Unidentified object crashes downtown. Witness claims alien girl appeared. Comment sections were full of jokes and hate. No one believed it. Then, 3 gentle knocks on his door. He froze. When he opened it, Lyra stood there, drenched from rain, trembling, clutching the same glowing tablet. "I had nowhere else to go," she whispered. "They're tracking me." John hesitated, then pulled her inside. She looked around his tiny room like it was a palace. You are kind," she murmured softly. No human has ever been kind before. He didn't understand what she meant, but when he looked outside, tiny red lights floated in the fog. Drones. Watching. The air smelled like burning metal. John turned off the lights. "Who's tracking you?" he whispered. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. "The Vorlon. My masters. They will come for me soon." John felt a chill run down his spine. He had paid $1 for a joke, but that single click had just changed the fate of his entire world. The night felt heavy, filled with strange sounds. Rain drummed softly on the window as John sat across from Lyra at his kitchen table. The alien girl's silver hair clung to her face. She looked exhausted, scared, and heartbreakingly human. John slid a towel toward her. "You need to tell me what's going on." Lyra hesitated, staring at her trembling hands. "You shouldn't have opened the door," she whispered. "Now they will mark you too," John frowned. "Who will?" "The Vorlon," she said, almost choking on the word. "My masters." She lifted her wrist. A glowing mark pulsed beneath her skin, a ring of red light burning faintly like a brand. When she touched it, her face twisted in pain. "They made me wear it when I was taken. If I disobey an order, it hurts. Or worse." John stared horrified. "You mean you're a slave?" she finished quietly. "Sold in auctions across galaxies. You didn't buy me, John. You were tricked. He leaned back, trying to process it all. I only paid $1 for some stupid online ad. How could that? Lyra shook her head. It wasn't a game. The ad was a test. A human corporation partnered with the Vorlon. They wanted to see how humans would react to owning a living being from another world. John clenched his fists. That's sick. Lyra's eyes softened. And you failed their system. Because you refused to treat me like property, that's why they're coming. A loud thud echoed from the ceiling. John jumped to his feet. The kitchen light flickered, then went out. He whispered, "What was that?" Lyra stood, her glowing eyes scanning the dark. "They found me." Outside, the air vibrated with a low hum. Through the window, John saw red orbs drifting through the fog. Drones, hundreds of them, moving like a swarm. John's heart pounded. "We need to get out of here." Lyra nodded, but as they reached the door, a blinding flash filled the room. The door burst open, and a tall, armored figure stepped through the smoke. His voice was metallic and cold. Target located. Return the asset. John grabbed the nearest thing, a metal pan, and swung. It bounced off the soldier's armor with a loud clang. The alien turned, amused. "Primitive weaponry," he hissed. Lyra raised her hands, screaming a word in her language. For a second, her mark blazed white instead of red, and the air cracked like lightning. The soldier flew backward, crashing through the wall. John stared, stunned. "How did you—" Lyra fell to her knees, gasping. "Every time I use power, it burns the mark. I can't hold it for long." The other drones began closing in. John grabbed her arm. "Come on, we're leaving." They ran down the stairs, through the flooded alley, rain pounding on their faces. Behind them, red beams sliced through the fog. Buildings caught fire. Sirens wailed. John's apartment exploded as they reached the end of the street. The shockwave threw them both to the ground. Lyra groaned, clutching her shoulder. "They won't stop. They can track me anywhere." John stood, pulling her up. His face was set now, his fear replaced by something sharper, anger. "Then we'll make it hard for them," he said. "You're not their property anymore." Lyra looked at him, eyes wide with disbelief. "Why would you risk your life for me?" "Because someone has to," he said simply. For a brief moment she smiled, a sad, fragile smile. Then the ground beneath them glowed with alien symbols. "They've opened a portal," she whispered. "They're sending more." John grabbed her hand. "Then we run faster." They sprinted into the storm, disappearing into the dark streets as the alien portal ripped open behind them, pouring light into the night. By dawn, the city news showed only destruction. Reporters said it was a gas explosion. No one mentioned the pod. No one mentioned the blue-skinned girl. But in the woods miles away, John and Lyra hid beneath a collapsed bridge watching the sunrise. Lyra whispered, "They won't stop until they erase you." John looked at the rising sun and smiled grimly. "They can try." The forest was silent except for the distant rumble of thunder. John and Lyra had spent the night hiding under the collapsed bridge, too scared to sleep. Every shadow felt alive. Every sound made Lyra flinch. John's clothes were soaked, his hands scraped from running through the woods. He sat beside the small campfire they had built from broken branches. Lyra sat opposite him, her silver hair reflecting the orange glow. "You should have left me," she whispered softly. "Now they'll hunt you too." John shook his head. "Too late for that. We're in this together now." Lyra's glowing eyes softened for the first time. "Together," she repeated quietly, like it was a new word she had never spoken before. Suddenly the fire flickered. The air changed, too still, too heavy. Lyra's ears twitched. "They're close." John looked around.
"How do you know?"
She pointed upward. "The air hums when they open a gate." Before he could react, the trees behind them exploded in a shower of dirt and flame. A silver pod crashed through the branches, landing hard. 3 armored figures stepped out, their armor shining red in the firelight. One of them raised his weapon, a long rifle that hummed with blue light. Asset detected. Termination protocol authorized. John barely had time to move before the first blast hit. The ground erupted beside him, throwing mud and smoke into the air. He rolled behind a tree, coughing. Lyra shouted something in her language, raising her hand. Her wrist mark glowed bright red. A pulse of blue energy shot from her palm, slamming into one soldier's chest. The armor cracked, but the soldier didn't fall. He laughed through the helmet. "Weak output." "She's malfunctioning," Lyra screamed as her mark burned her skin. She fell to her knees, crying out in pain. "Stop." John ran toward her, swinging a thick branch at the nearest alien. The branch snapped against the armor, but it bought him 1 second, just enough. He tackled the soldier, trying to pull the weapon away. The alien threw him back easily, his strength inhuman. John crashed against a rock, pain shooting through his ribs. The soldier aimed again, but then his weapon melted in his hands. Lyra was standing, her eyes blazing white now instead of blue. "Don't touch him." A shockwave burst from her body. The trees bent backward, leaves catching fire. The soldiers were thrown through the air like toys, their armor sparking violently. John covered his face as the blast scorched the ground around them. When the light faded, smoke rose from the crater. 2 soldiers were gone. One was still alive, crawling. His helmet was cracked, revealing pale, scaled skin beneath. Lyra staggered, her breathing shallow. "We have to run." John helped her stand. "Not yet." He grabbed the half-destroyed rifle and pointed it at the surviving alien. "Why are you after her? Who sent you?" The alien coughed, spitting dark blood. "She carries forbidden code. She wasn't meant to live." John's grip tightened. "Then you messed with the wrong human." He fired the weapon. The blast turned the alien to ash. The forest burned around them, glowing red against the night. Lyra leaned weakly on his arm. "You have killed a Vorlon hunter. They will send more. Then we keep moving," John said. His voice was calm now, colder, harder. "We find somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't track us." Lyra looked at him, tired, grateful, afraid. "No place is safe from them." "Maybe not from them," he said, staring at the stars through the smoke. "But you haven't met humans yet. We don't give up that easy." A faint smile touched her lips. "That's why they fear your kind." She passed out in his arms. Hours later, John carried her through the woods until he saw faint lights in the distance, an abandoned military facility hidden behind the hills. Broken signs read, "Restricted Zone, no entry." John pushed open the rusted gates. "We rest here," he whispered. As the metal door closed behind them, far above the clouds, a Vorlon battleship adjusted its orbit. A voice echoed across its deck. "Hunter units lost. Activate Pursuit Class Omega." The hunt wasn't over. It was just beginning. The old military base smelled like rust and dust. Broken lights flickered along the ceiling as John carried Lyra down the narrow hallway. Her body felt cold and lighter than it should be, her silver hair brushing against his arm. He laid her gently on an old metal table. "Hey, stay with me, okay?" Lyra's eyes fluttered open. "Where are we?" "Some kind of bunker," John said, glancing around. "Looks abandoned for decades." She weakly smiled. "Humans build many things, then forget them." John found an old power generator and hit the switch. The lights blinked alive, humming softly. Dust danced in the air. The bunker came to life. Screens glowed faintly, old monitors flickering with static. "Looks like this place still works," he muttered. Lyra sat up slowly. Her glowing wrist mark was dim now, almost dead. "I can't feel their signal," she whispered. "Maybe the walls block it?" "Good," John said. "We'll hide here until I figure something out." Lyra shook her head. "You can't hide forever. They track energy signatures, life signals, everything." John leaned on the table. "Then we find a way to stop them." She looked at him curiously. "You talk like you can fight an empire." He smirked. "I've worked 10 years in a factory full of broken machines. I fix things that shouldn't work. Maybe I can fix this too." Lyra tilted her head. "You're strange for a human." He shrugged. "You're strange for an alien." For the first time she laughed, soft, gentle, real. It echoed in the cold bunker, filling the silence with warmth. As she rested, John explored deeper into the base. He found crates marked with faded letters. Project Haven, Earth Defense Testing. Inside were old blueprints and metallic parts that looked alien. He called out, "Lyra, you might want to see this." She joined him, studying the parts. Her eyes widened. "This is Vorlon tech, but modified. Your people tried to copy our weapons." "Looks like it," John said. "But they stopped halfway. Maybe they didn't understand it." Lyra touched the console and whispered a command in her own language. The screen changed, showing a map of several glowing dots across Earth. "These are drop sites," she said. "That's where other lottery winners live." John froze. "You mean there are more like you? More aliens on Earth?" "Yes," she said softly. "Thousands. But not all of them were lucky enough to find someone like you." John stared at the blinking dots. Then we're not just hiding anymore. We're warning the others. Lyra looked at him, half in awe, half in fear. You'd risk everything for people you don't even know? He smiled faintly. That's what makes us human. Suddenly the bunker lights dimmed. Lyra's mark flared red again. No. They found me. Alarms blared. The air vibrated with static. John shouted, How? They used my energy signature when I touched the system, she cried. I warned you. John grabbed the crate, throwing open the lid. Inside was a weapon, a strange rifle fused with human steel and alien energy. He looked at Lyra. Can you power this? Her face was pale, but she nodded. If I connect my mark to it, yes, but it will hurt. Then we don't have a choice, he said. Lyra pressed her glowing wrist against the weapon. It hummed to life, lines of blue fire racing through its frame. The pain made her scream, but she held firm. John, she gasped, once I start, we run. Don't stop for anything, he nodded. You ready? She smiled weakly. No, but go. The bunker doors burst open. Armored aliens poured in, their voices echoing through the hall. Lyra released a pulse of energy that turned the weapon into a storm of blue lightning. The blast threw the invader's back, shattering metal walls. John grabbed her hand. Now! They ran through the smoke, fire raining around them. The ceiling collapsed behind them as they reached the exit. Outside, the night sky was red from distant explosions. They stumbled into the open field, breathing hard, covered in ash. John turned back. Half the bunker was gone. Lyra looked up, tears glimmering in her eyes. You saved me again. John looked at the burning horizon. No, he said quietly. We saved each other. Above them, the clouds split open. A massive ship appeared, dark, silent, watching. Lyra whispered, trembling. That's not a hunter ship. That's the mothership. John gritted his teeth. Then it's time we stop running. The mothership hung above the clouds, silent as a ghost. Its black surface absorbed the light, turning the night sky into a reflection of fear. John and Lyra stood in the shadow of the abandoned base's ruins, staring at the enormous ship that hovered miles away. The wind whipped around them, carrying the metallic taste of ozone. Lyra's voice trembled. That ship? It's the command vessel. Wherever it goes, death follows. John didn't look away. Then that's where we're going. She blinked, shocked. What? You said it yourself, they'll never stop. So instead of running, we take the fight to them. Lyra shook her head. You can't even imagine what's inside that ship. It's not a place humans walk out of alive. John's lips curled into a hard grin. Then I'll make history. Inside the half-destroyed bunker, John scavenged whatever he could. Wires, fuel cells, batteries. Lyra watched him silently. His hands were shaking, not from fear but from exhaustion. You don't give up easily, do you? She asked softly. He smirked. Giving up never fixed a broken machine. Lyra's gaze fell on his trembling fingers. You're not fixing a machine this time, John. You're trying to fix the universe. He stopped and looked at her. Maybe someone should. For a moment, neither spoke. The sound of wind outside filled the silence. Then Lyra pointed toward a sealed steel door at the far end of the bunker. That's not part of the human design, John frowned. You mean it's alien? Yes, she said. But the signal is faint. Very old. They forced the door open. Cold air rushed out, carrying a faint blue glow. Inside was a vast chamber lined with alien pods. Thousands of them. Each pod contained a frozen being. Different species, different worlds. Some were human. Lyra gasped, her voice breaking. They've been here for years. Maybe decades. The Vorlon have been collecting life from everywhere. John stepped closer to one pod. Inside was a small child floating peacefully, her skin faintly glowing gold. What are they doing to them? Lyra swallowed hard. Experimenting, turning life into weapons. These pods, they're the blueprints of a new empire. John's fist tightened. Not anymore. He spotted a console nearby, its symbols pulsing weakly. Lyra approached it and placed her palm on the scanner. The system flickered to life. Streams of alien code filled the air in glowing lines. John watched as holograms projected across the room. Maps of Earth. Cities marked in red, countdown timers flashing under each one. They're preparing for invasion, Lyra whispered. The first strike begins in 72 hours. John stepped back, heart pounding. Then we need to stop it. Suddenly alarms wailed. The console turned red. Lyra's eyes widened. No. They traced the signal. We woke them. John grabbed her hand. Can you shut it down? Not in time, she cried. They're teleporting a retrieval team here. The walls shook. A blue beam cracked through the ceiling, and armored figures began descending, weapons glowing. John pulled the alien rifle from his shoulder. Then we fight. Lyra nodded, her eyes glowing again, this time brighter than before. I can link my energy to yours. It will make the weapon stronger. But it will drain me, he met her gaze. We do it together, she smiled faintly. Together, the first alien hit the ground. John fired. The beam sliced through its armor. Lyra extended her hands, sending arcs of blue lightning that turned the air into fire. More soldiers fell. Then the console exploded, sending shards of light across the chamber. Pods began to crack open, some releasing gas, others flickering to life. Lyra screamed, collapsing to her knees. They're waking the experiments. John grabbed her, pulling her behind a wall. The chamber filled with light and chaos, half the soldiers fighting, half trying to contain the awakening pods. John looked at Lyra, his voice steady. We're leaving now, she nodded weakly. Together they ran through the collapsing hallway, chased by fire, alarms, and roaring alien machines. As they reached the exit, the entire bunker shook from another explosion. The ground split open, revealing the sky filled with ships. Lyra whispered in horror, They've started early. John looked at her, eyes burning with defiance. Then so do we. They disappeared into the smoke, two figures against the storm, while the mothership above began to open like a dark flower, ready to strike the earth below. The night sky burned. Cities flickered under red warning lights as alien ships cut through the clouds. The invasion had begun earlier than anyone imagined. Sirens wailed across continents and people ran to shelters, staring at the sky where the stars themselves seemed to move. Deep in the forest, smoke and thunder rolled as John and Lyra emerged from the destroyed base. Behind them, the ground split open and swallowed the ruins whole. Lyra's legs trembled. She leaned against a tree, her breathing shallow. It's too late, she whispered. They've started phase 1. John helped her stand. Then we finish it. Her eyes widened. Finish it? John, we barely survived the hunters. The mothership carries armies, thousands of them. He stared up at the fiery horizon. You said they built their empire on slaves and fear. Maybe it's time they learned what humans build on. Lyra frowned. What's that? He looked at her, voice steady. Hope. They reached an old military airfield nearby, half broken, forgotten by time. Inside a hangar stood a rusted fighter jet. Its paint was peeled, its engines dead. John began working without a word. He tore open alien power cells and fused them into the jet's systems, using wires, scrap, and the alien rifle's energy core. Sparks flew. Lyra watched, weak but fascinated. You're insane, she said softly. He grinned. Probably. But it's working. She stepped closer, touching the glowing engine. You're merging human tech with Vorlon energy. That's impossible. Impossible, John said, is just a word people use before I fix something. For a moment, despite the chaos, Lyra laughed, a sound that felt like light cutting through darkness. Hours passed. The sky glowed with alien fire. Cities burned in the distance. Finally, the jet came alive, humming like a sleeping beast. John turned to her. I need your help to power the weapon. She shook her head. If I merge again, I might not come back. I know, he said quietly. But if we don't, no one will. Lyra stared into his eyes. There was no fear there, only resolve. If this is the end, then we end it together. John nodded. Together, they climbed into the cockpit. The engines screamed, shaking the ground. The jet roared forward and shot into the sky, cutting through the smoke. Below them, earth burned. Above them, the mothership opened like a colossal flower of steel and fire. As they approached, dozens of smaller ships swarmed toward them, firing blue plasma. John dodged, rolled, and climbed higher, weaving through explosions. Lyra held her palms to the console, glowing veins spreading across her arms. I'm linking the system now. The jet's wings shimmered with alien energy. John grinned. All right, let's show them what $1 can buy. He dived straight toward the swarm. The jet fired pulses of light, tearing through enemy ships. Fireballs blossomed across the sky. The mothership loomed ahead, massive and silent. John aimed for the center, where a circular core glowed like a second sun. That's their power source, Lyra shouted over the roar. If you hit it, the entire fleet collapses. Then hang on, John yelled. Lasers cut through the clouds, grazing their wings. The jet shook violently. Alarms blared. Lyra screamed, "It's overloading!" "Just a little closer," John shouted. She reached across the cockpit, placing her glowing hand on his chest. "Take my strength," she said softly. All of it. Light poured from her body into the jet. Every surface burned white hot. The craft turned into a spear of energy. John's voice broke through the static. "You messed with humans. Bad move." He slammed the control stick forward. The jet pierced the mothership's core. A blinding explosion filled the sky. The mothership cracked apart, breaking into pieces that burned like stars falling to Earth. Every smaller ship froze, their systems dead. Across the world, the invasion stopped. From space, Earth glowed under fire and light, but it was still alive. Hours later, burning wreckage rained down. Emergency channels across the world screamed in confusion, then celebration. The invasion fleet was gone. In the middle of a smoking crater, John crawled out of the wrecked jet coughing, his body bruised but alive. He turned, searching. Lyra? No answer. Then he saw her lying nearby, her skin faintly glowing. She opened her eyes, weak but smiling. "Did we win?" John knelt beside her, taking her hand. "Yeah, we did," she smiled faintly. "I told you humans were strange." He squeezed her hand gently. "And you told me you'd never seen hope. Now you have," her eyes closed, peaceful. The rising sun broke through the clouds, painting the sky gold. John looked up. "You messed with the wrong planet," he whispered. The morning after the war was strangely quiet. No ships in the sky, no thunder from above, only wind moving through the broken trees and smoke rising from cities that still stood. John sat on a rock beside the wreckage of the jet, the sun warming his bruised face. The light felt heavy, like the world was slowly remembering how to breathe again. Beside him, Lyra lay wrapped in his jacket. Her glow had faded to a soft silver. Her eyes opened weakly, reflecting the golden dawn. "You're still here," she whispered. John smiled tiredly. "You really thought I'd leave before breakfast?" She laughed softly. The sound was fragile, like glass. Humor, even now. He looked at the horizon where the black smoke curled into the blue. Earth survived. They'll rebuild. Maybe this time, they'll finally believe in what's out there. Lyra turned her face toward the light. "And fear it?" John shook his head. "No, respect it." By noon, drones from surviving human militaries began to arrive. They hovered over the crater, scanning, recording, searching for answers. News broadcasts across the world showed footage of the destroyed mothership, half in orbit, half falling into the ocean. Governments argued. Scientists wept. People prayed. But one thing was clear. A single human with one alien had stopped an empire. Days passed. John and Lyra were taken to a recovery base in the mountains. Doctors could heal John's body, but Lyra's condition was beyond them. The Vorlon energy inside her was unstable. She was fading. When John sat by her bedside, she smiled faintly. "Your world is beautiful," she whispered. "Even when it's broken," he held her hand. "You helped save it. You're part of it now." Her silver eyes softened. "You humans, you fight not because you hate, but because you care. That's something my people forgot long ago." She looked past him, toward the window where the stars shone. "Promise me something." "Anything," John said. "When they come again, and they will, don't fight to destroy. Fight to protect. Promise me you'll teach them what it means to be human." John's throat tightened. "I promise." She smiled one last time, peaceful and bright. "Then my mission is complete." The light in her eyes dimmed. Her body shimmered and dissolved into 1,000 silver particles that floated upward, glowing like fireflies. John reached out, but she was gone. The room was quiet, filled only with the hum of machines and the soft glitter of fading starlight. Weeks later, the world changed. Every news screen replayed the same transmission, a message found inside the wreckage of the mothership. It was a recording of Lyra, her voice calm and strong. "To the species of Earth," she said, "you have shown what no empire could understand. Compassion in the face of cruelty. You fight not for power, but for kindness. That is why you are dangerous. That is why you are beautiful. Protect that truth and no darkness can conquer you." The message spread across nations. It was translated into every language, played in classrooms, on radios, on walls of cities reborn, People called it the message of Lyra. Children grew up learning her name, and John Miller, the man who paid $1, vanished quietly from the world stage. No one knew where he went. Some said he joined the new space defense program. Others whispered he built a memorial where the stars first fell. But those who knew him said he was often seen at dawn, staring at the sky, waiting for a silver light that might one day return. One evening, as the wind swept through the ruins of the old airfield, a familiar hum filled the air. A small pod descended slowly, landing on the cracked runway. The hatch opened. Inside was a single crystal sphere, glowing faintly with blue and silver light. John picked it up, and Lyra's voice echoed softly inside his mind. "You kept your promise. Now it's your turn to lead." Tears filled his eyes, but he smiled. "Welcome home, Lyra." The stars shimmered above, brighter than ever. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't looking up in fear. They were looking up in hope. Moral of the story: true strength isn't born from power or weapons, it comes from kindness, courage, and the choice to protect even when it